We'll now call to order the January 26th, 2026 City of Abilene, Kansas City Commission meeting. Shayla, may we please have a roll call?
Mayor Ryan.
Here.
Commissioner Taylor. Commissioner Kohlhoff.
Present.
Commissioner Lytle.
Here.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Here.
Roll call is complete.
Okay, would you please stand for the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next up is the consent agenda, which consists of the meeting minutes for the January 12th, 2026 regular meeting, appropriation ordinance A-012626-1, AP payment register 012626, fourth quarter 2025 treasurer's report, fourth quarter 2025 investment report, and the appointment of Public Works Director Anderson as voting delegate and City Clerk HR Director Moore as alternate voting delegate for the Kansas Rural Water Association's 57th Annual Meeting of Membership.
No idea where we are on here though.
Consent agenda.
Oh,
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda as written.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to roll call vote. Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Commissioner Kohlhoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle.
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Next item under public comments communications is 5A, a public forum. If there's anyone that would like to address an item not on our current agenda to the commission that may do so at this time. Do we have anyone that would like to address an item not on our current agenda? You guys are on the agenda.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners. The Abilene Police Department recognizes officers who engage in an exceptional police act during their field duties with the department's Commendation Award. This afternoon, we recognize Sergeant Grant Pratt and Officer Kevin Reyes for their line of duty action on January 16th, 2026. On January 16th, Sergeant Pratt and Officer Reyes responded to a residence on the northeast side of Abilene for a welfare check. The caller had received third-party information that a male subject at the residence was contemplating self-harm. Upon entering the residence, the officers encountered the male subject sitting in the living room displaying a handgun. These officers expediently relayed their observations to other responding officers and, along with an uninvolved civilian, were able to safely exit the residence. Once outside the residence, Sergeant Pratt and Officer Reyes simultaneously began establishing a safety perimeter, shutting down traffic into the area, and summons emergency medical services to the residence. Sergeant Pratt was able to make telephone contact with the male subject and began working to de-escalate the situation. After approximately 10 minutes, Sergeant Pratt was able to convince the male to exit the residence unarmed. The male was transported from the residence to a local hospital where he underwent a mental health evaluation. Situations like the one these officers were faced with oftentimes end in serious or adverse outcomes. By remaining calm and employing effective de-escalation strategies, these officers diffused a potentially dangerous situation and ensured a safe outcome for all involved. I'd ask that you join me in recognizing Sergeant Pratt and Officer Reyes as they receive their commendation awards.
Thank you. And just on behalf of the commission, I want to thank Sergeant Pratt and Officer Reyes for their act of heroism that day, and appreciate everything you guys do on a daily basis. I know you never know what you're walking into, and definitely have an appreciation of that for everything you unknowingly or knowingly walk into every day. So thank you.
I don't, this is maybe appropriate for public forum. I'm curious if the commission would want to have the study session in this room for weather concerns as well as the rather short agenda today.
Well, I guess we already had publicly posted that the location.
I guess I have some serious concerns also with the doors locking behind us that we're not meeting the letter or the intent of the Kansas Open Meetings Act where it's currently hosted. And I don't think there's any requirement for posting notice.
I would like to speak to the point you just made because I made abundantly clear, and I know staff did as well, to make sure that that door was unlocked and available and accessible to any member of the public wishing to come into the study session. That is obviously critical on any open public meeting, that we not do anything that would preclude access for anyone wanting to attend. So I'm comfortable with the way that is being handled and just want to make sure that is clear. As to the proposed relocation, I'll defer it back to you on that.
Is it my understanding, and if, correct me if I'm wrong here, but that the door does lock behind us once we go into that back room at City Hall? The front door is being locked, so it's,
It does lock, however, there's a direct phone number for them to call to be let in.
And I understand that we've been listening to hear if anyone is knocking in case they were unable to call as well.
okay.
So from a sheer COMA compliance perspective, I think we're good there. We need to continue to make sure that occurs.
Okay. Do we have anyone else that would like to address the commission on an item not on our current agenda? Okay, seeing none, we will move into 5B, Catholic Schools Week proclamation. Okay, Catholic Schools Week 2026, January 25th through the 31st of 2026. Whereas St. Andrew's Catholic School, Abilene, Kansas, has been an educational institution in our community for over 60 years. And whereas students and alumni of St. Andrew's Catholic School provide vital contributions to our community, and whereas the staff, volunteers, and families associated with St. Andrew's Catholic School and St. Andrew Parish are committed to carrying on a tradition of excellence, and whereas the ongoing support of this community and its citizens contributes to St. Andrew's ability to achieve its mission. Therefore, I, Brandon Ryan, Mayor of the City of Abilene, Kansas, do hereby proclaim January 25th through 31st of 2026 to be Catholic Schools Week. I encourage all citizens of Abilene to recognize the many accomplishments and opportunities that this great school provides to our community. In testimony whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the great seal of the City of Abilene, Kansas to be affixed this 26th day of January 2026. Come up, take a picture. Sure. I was gonna say, it was looking a little light. Doesn't come up.
To the spirit. To the beard.
You can sit in the chair too.
No.
You want to sit in the chair?
No.
No, girl, guys.
Yeah.
No, I'll stay here.
Yeah.
All right, ready?
Di and Debbie.
Get on.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Do one more. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you all. Thank you for your support.
You guys now, huh? Even though you don't have school.
Be more fun.
Okay. Double those up, boys.
All right, next up is 5C, Human Trafficking Awareness Month proclamation. Jacqueline Lawrence with DVAC.
Good afternoon.
You may go ahead whenever you're ready.
I'm Mary Cookson. I'm the victim advocate with DVAC here in Salina. I will first read the Stalking Awareness Month proclamation. Whereas stalking is a serious and often hidden crime that affects an estimated 13.5 million people in the United States each year. And whereas stalking is commonly perpetrated by someone the victim knows with 42% of victims stalked by an acquaintance and 40% by a current or former intimate partner. And whereas stalking behaviors frequently involve both digital and physical methods, with 80% of victims stalked using technology and 67% stalked in person. And whereas in 2024, the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas, known as DVAC, served 40 stalking victims, including survivors from Cloud, Dickinson, Saline, and McPherson counties, as well as out-of-state clients. And whereas these victims resided across the region, including Concordia, Harrington, Abilene, Salina, New Cambria, and Moundridge, illustrating that stalking impacts both rural and urban communities. And whereas DVAC remains dedicated to providing safety planning, advocacy, and trauma-informed services while working with community partners to raise awareness and prevent stalking in all its forms. And now we would like you to hereby recognize January 2026 as Stalking Awareness Month.
Next up is the Human Trafficking Awareness Month proclamation. Mary with DVAC, sorry about that. Mary, are you able to hear me now? Mary, are you able to hear me?
I can now.
Okay, perfect. Next up is the Human Trafficking Awareness Month proclamation. Mary with DVAC.
Whereas human trafficking is a pervasive and devastating time that affects individuals, families, and communities across the United States. And whereas in the most recently completed year, 2024, an estimated 17,000 potential victims of human trafficking were identified nationwide, representing only a fraction of those who suffer in silence. And whereas human trafficking takes many forms, with employers accounting for 43% of traffickers, family members representing 26%, and intimate partners representing 22%, demonstrating the complex relationships and power dynamics that often trap victims in cycles of exploitation. And whereas the Domestic Violence Association of Central Kansas provided direct services to 6 human trafficking survivors in 2024, including 5 individuals from Saline County and 1 from Sedgwick County. And whereas 5 survivors were residents of Salina and 1 was from Wichita, reflecting that human trafficking impacts both rural and urban communities within our region. And whereas DVAC remains committed to offering crisis intervention, advocacy, safety planning, housing support, and trauma-informed services to survivors of human trafficking, while also partnering with local, state, and national organizations to raise awareness and strengthen community response. And whereas all community members play a vital role in preventing trafficking, supporting survivors, and creating a safer environment where exploitation is not tolerated. And we would like for you to recognize 2026 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month, as well as to encourage residents and providers within the community to increase their awareness.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Are you able to hear me now? Just want to make sure.
I can't hear you.
Okay, perfect. I want to have the same debacle. Appreciate you being here virtually with us and reading those. All right, and next up is 5E, America Celebrates 250 Proclamation. Whereas the United States of America will commemorate its 250th anniversary in 2026, marking a historic milestone that honors the nation's founding democratic ideals and the generations of Americans who have shaped its story. And whereas the America 250 commemoration provides an opportunity for communities across the nation to reflect on their unique role in America's history, celebrate civic pride, and engage residents and visitors through education, heritage, and community activities. And whereas the city of Abilene, Kansas holds a significant place in American history as the hometown of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, Kansas's only United States president. and as a community shaped by frontier settlement, the Chisholm Trail, railroad expansion, agriculture, and a longstanding tradition of entrepreneurship and service to the nation. And whereas Abilene has received national recognition as a best historic small town and best U.S. small town, reflecting its commitment to preservation, storytelling, and welcoming visitors from across the country. And whereas the city of Abilene encourages residents, businesses, and organizations to commemorate America 250 through community-led initiatives, public art, educational programming, tourism promotion, and civic engagement. And whereas these efforts will highlight Abilene's history, culture, and people while strengthening community pride and inviting others to experience Abilene as part of the heart of America. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the mayor and the city commission of the city of Abilene, Kansas, that the city hereby recognizes and supports Abilene Celebrates America 250 and encourages residents, organizations, businesses, and visitors to participate in activities and events leading up to the 250th anniversary of the United States in 2026. Be it further proclaimed that the city of Abilene affirms its commitment to honoring America's history, celebrating civic pride, and sharing Abilene's story as part of the American experience. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the city of Abilene, Kansas, to be affixed this 26th day of January, 2026.
Light today.
Kids either.
Don't worry.
You guys want to sit in chairs? No.
Oh, geez.
You want me in the middle?
Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Let's join in.
We
don't
don't
want
want
it.
it.
Okay, back.
It's all part of this, right? Take lots of pictures.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Taking a couple.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And as 5F, we do have the Dickinson County Economic Development Corporation's 2025 report from Natalie, the director of DKDC. However, she is sick today, so she is not here to be able to present that. I assume we can just have her do that at the next meeting, so, okay. So heading 6, unfinished business. First up is 6A, consider approval of resolution 012626-1, adopting a comprehensive economic development incentive policy and standard application. Interim City Manager Quinde, Deputy City Manager, Community Development Director Zook.
Yeah, as the commission's aware, on December 8th of last year, city staff first presented to the city commission a recommendation to consolidate the city's existing economic development incentive policies, which span a few years old to more than 20 years old, into a single source document for ease of applicants, Dickinson County Economic Development, and staff and the commission. We met with Dickinson County Economic Development, the interim director, and then again with Natalie Morrow, the new executive director, who expressed support for moving forward to a unified approach. Revisions were subsequently made to clarify certain section of the proposed policy based on feedback from Dickinson County Economic Development. Following presentation and discussion with the city commission, we again revised the consolidated policy to improve clarity, usability, transparency, and consistency without expanding the city's incentives, their authority, or committing the city to additional financial risks. The revisions directly reflected the commission's feedback regarding policy structure, decision-making flexibility, ease of use for both applicants and commissioners. Those changes from those revisions included reorganizing the policy to make it more accessible, adding an incentive program summary section to provide concise, standardized overview of each incentive tool, and clarifying the policy statement that emphasizes the full commission discretion on approving or disapproving incentives, and then also adding initial evaluation criteria to support early high-level screening of project. These revisions were directly from City Commission feedback. Again, at January 9th, the commission provided additional direction to further clarify the City Commission's authority and flexibility within the policy. Based on the input, the draft was revised to explicitly acknowledge the Commission's authority to approve incentives for up to the maximum statutory timeframe when justified and permitted by law. Clarify that incentive applications may be considered after a project has commenced or been completed, consistent with existing practice. And clearly state at the outset of the policy that the city commission retains full discretion to approve, deny, modify, condition, or deviate from the policy on a case-by-case basis. The city attorney did prepare a resolution that would adopt the consolidated economic development policy, but also at the last work study session, I've made additional revisions because of input from commissioners, particularly that this policy will not promote economic development, but will hinder or stop economic development. And then later this afternoon, I received feedback that the policy creates a high barrier to entry and an upfront burden for small businesses. So I'm not going to ask the commission to consider the resolution this evening. What Kelsey passed out to you were revisions that I have made based on that feedback. But I do want to reaffirm that the original intent of the policy that was brought forth to the commission at the beginning of December was to compile and consolidate the city's existing incentive policies into one clear, transparent document. The intent was not to rewrite the incentive programs, not to reduce flexibility, and not to raise threshold. The incentives that are available today in the policy as presented are the same incentives that were available before this policy. What has changed is how clearly and predictably the process is described. So to address the concern that the policy creates a high barrier to entry, smaller and local businesses face too much cost and documentation too early, or applicants are required to commit significant time and money before knowing whether the city has an interest or whether the project was a good fit. So I updated sections 1, 5, 6, 13, and created a new appendix, which would be a pre-application or an intake form, could be used by anybody. So the policy now clearly allows early engagement without full commitment. So what that looks like in practical terms is if somebody wants to fill out the pre-application, it requires much less information. Then we evaluate that, bring their ask to the commission, and gauge the commission's interest before we move on to a full application. If the it aligns with what the commission wants to do, then the applicant's still required to complete a full application, pay the application fee, which is currently embedded in policy unless the commission changes that, and then either pay the $5,000 deposit for the third-party cost or enter into a funding agreement where they agree to pay those costs as they come in. Section 3. I'm sorry, Section 1, the process. If you look there at the italicized language, it clarifies that early consultation with staff is encouraged. It provides that the city commission will receive informational briefings or preliminary discussions without triggering the formal consideration or approval. So clearly distinguishes discussion versus formal action, which ensures flexibility without reducing oversight. Projects can be discussed and evaluated earlier with the commission without forcing the business to file a full application just to start the conversation. Section 5 was changed, which allows for a phased submission of application materials. It confirms that detailed financials and technical studies may be deferred until after review or direction from the city commission, and preserves the requirement for a complete application prior to any official consideration or approval by the city commission. Keeping in mind that some of the incentives that you'll be asked to approve require that we notify the school district and the county as they can object to those incentives. So what that intent is that businesses would no longer have to incur major costs before the city confirms a project is eligible and aligned with policy. I also changed Section 6, which is the fee schedule. Literally separates a preliminary review and early stage evaluation from the full application fees. It allows the city commission to defer or reduce fees for early stage review, particularly for smaller local projects. Makes clear that the $1,500 application fee and the $5,000 deposit or a funding agreement apply only when a project advances to full application and still maintains full cost recovery and fiscal protections for the city. This will hopefully address the concern that small and local businesses are not discouraged by upfront fees before the city has indicated interest in moving forward. I also updated section 13, memorandum of understanding, clarifies that a memorandum of understanding can be used after preliminary review as a non-binding direction to proceed from the city commission to staff. It reinforces that MOUs are not approvals. They do not commit city funds and may expire, and provides applicants confidence to proceed with detailed work once the city signals interest through an MOU. What this provides is for small and local businesses, a clear checkpoint before making major investments in their time preparing an application. Appendix A is now a pre-application intake form. It introduces a short, low-burden intake form for early stage review, allows staff and the commission to understand the project concepts early, but does not obligate the city or guarantee incentives. Why this matters is that when the city learns about projects earlier and businesses can test feasibility without fear of triggering fees or early denial. To address the concern that this policy, as presented 2 weeks ago, will stop economic development, the revised policy lowers procedural barriers while keeping all incentive tools intact. It encourages earlier conversations, not later ones. It improves transparency and predictability, which are critical to business decision-making, and it maintains flexibility for local incremental growth while preserving accountability for larger projects. The changes that are in the policy that were handed out to you today make it easier to start the conversation, not harder to finish. What has not changed is no incentive programs were removed or rewritten. No approval authority or commission discretion was removed. No statutory requirements were altered. Performance agreements, clawbacks, annual reporting, and public hearings remain unchanged. And the city commission retains full discretion over all incentives. The policy, as I mentioned, was intended just to take what you have, put it into a single source document, not rewrite it. The policy, as presented to you, also intends to protect taxpayers. And now it sequences the process more realistically. So with that, I will take any questions. I went through it quick. If you want to send me your feedback on it, and I can make revisions, or if the commission is just comfortable leaving the incentives that you have now on the website with the various applications and forms, we can just leave it there and then come back at a future date if you decide as a governing body that you want to revisit the incentives that you currently offer. Are there any questions?
Questions for staff?
I'm looking at, I'm sorry, I'm kind of trying to tie back to our original policy and your revised here. Specifically under the CID, our existing policy, and going back to the statute on here, it looks like the existing statute allows for CID projects and it gives a whole list of things here. But it looks like in the current policy, there's like a line that's drawn in what's qualified, and then everything below that line is not qualified. So for example, I'm looking on, I guess for the benefit of the group here who has these papers, on page 17, it says products listed shall not be eligible. And so specifically airports, railroads, light rail, and other mass transit facilities, and then the whole list of everything that continues there. Those are specifically listed as eligible, both in the statute and in our existing policy. So that's something that I don't understand. That seems, I don't know if that was a typo or how that that came about, but I don't think that was the intention. But I guess without digging into each one of these individually, these are all kind of unique animals. You know what I mean? There's TIF for below the ground, CAD for above the ground. You know, some of them don't really affect us as a city as far as coming out of our pocket or affecting our tax revenue. And I think like what we're trying to do here is noble, and I think it's useful. But I think what after going through 6 revisions of this thing and making notes on it, I think it would be easiest for us as a body. I think some of these things are great. Like I think a pre-application process, you may know, I think a lot of cities have that pre-application process. So you sit down and say, hey, here's where I perceive, you know, maybe we can do this, maybe we can't do this. Again, it's going to be a governing body decision, but here's some things for you to think about as the applicant for this process. But I think it makes more sense to take each one of these animals, each one of these incentive packages, and look at it individually to be able to create something that's comprehensive rather than looking at all of this all at once. I just think there's, it's overwhelming, really. I mean, I think we need to be able to break that down and give each one of these things the time that it deserves. And that's, I guess, really my preference. I think having a consolidated document at some date in the future is fantastic. But I'd rather have a good document than a quick one. And I'm just concerned that without looking at each individual incentive package, I think you guys experienced this in the study session. Like we're kind of talking past each other. Like, well, is it 10 years? Is it 20 years? Is it 22 years? Well, which one are you talking about? And so I think just for I don't know, just to be the most complete and have the best package, I think it makes a lot of sense to take time and break each one down, put it back into this consolidated document, working on them one at a time.
I do tend to agree that I think now would be a good time. I'd look for opinions on this too, to improve each individual policy, whether it be a SID, a TIF, or HID. Is now the best time to tweak each policy and make sure that it's up to date and the most competitive with other communities. Like you mentioned earlier, some of our incentive policies are 24 years old. Can they be better? Can they be rewritten? Is now the time to do it, since we're kind of working through the process of a general overall overarching policy. Seems to make sense to me to take them one by one and make them the best that they can be. But like I said, I'm open for more conversation on it too.
Well, like I mentioned, the intent was to take what you have, put it in a single source document. If the commission wishes to address each one, they're statutorily driven, so you can make them as, I guess, broad or lenient as the statute allows to address that without changing your policy. I think there's 7 or 8 places in here that says this is just guidance. Doesn't matter what this says. At the end of the day, the commission can say yes or no based on the needs. But if that's if the commission wants to go through each one of them, good luck. I mean, it'll take you some time. And that's probably better reserved for your permanent manager that will have some time to go through and look at those and have the opportunity to get those done.
I appreciate all the work you did on putting
Oh,
it
thank you.
together in one spot, because I know that was a lot of work.
And thank you. And I will say that it was not a quick work.
Yeah.
It, I'd say took maybe 100 hours of staff time to try to do it. So it's not something we just whipped out and said, oh, hey, you want to adopt it. But I completely see your point, and we'll let you move on when you decide the time's right.
Yeah, I'm kind of, yeah, I think it does need to get individually looked at. I still think this is a step in the right direction though, getting it into a single source document. Because I think long-term that makes the most sense, is to make it as easy as possible to sift through and read for potential developers. Like you alluded to, it's not going to be a quick process to get through every single one.
Yeah.
But I do understand we do need to take that on. But I'm also completely in support of adopting this, so we at least have it in a single source document. We can always, whether we approve this or not, we need to look at our incentives individually. So I guess for me, if we're getting it into a simple document, that's a bonus to me, at least in the meantime.
And perhaps I just don't know how to read statutes, but I'm pretty sure the statute prohibits the use of CID funds for cleaning services and things like that. But that's an argument for another day and another person.
I don't want to argue with you. I just want to point it out. I think if you look at the existing CID policy specifically, I think there was a couple others, but that there's something above the line and like everything below that was excluded. And that's just maybe I'm not reading the policy correctly, but it appears to me that everything below that line that this document says is not allowed is specifically included both in the statute and in our previous policy. Was it page 17? I think as we look at these incentives, I guess the policy or the process that I would like to use is looking at what is going to be utilized the most. I guess just my feeling is that it's the CID that's being used the most frequently. And maybe we can start there. I know our NRP is due to be renewed too. I don't think that rolls out until November, but if we could get those on the schedule to review and study session, I guess one of the goals with this is consistency, right? And I think part of consistency is looking at how we have done it for the people who came before as well, and making sure we're mindful of that. I don't know. I guess that's probably in Carrie's realm, but looking at those incentives that were used, I'm not aware of a single TIF that's been used in the city. Obviously, we have 2 RHID projects, so those are relevant. But I'd be curious to, I guess, Brandon, you've been here the longest. I don't know if you've got any sensitivity to what would be on your list of priorities there.
Yeah, CID is very common. RHID, yes, I assume that's a little bit more controlled by statute because it's a newer program. I'm not sure, without sifting through statutes. TIF, I don't think we have ever had one. I don't even know that we've really been seriously contacted about one. Trying to think if there's any. IRBs are very common too. So I mean, really, you're looking at, see what we could do with RHID, but CIDs and IRBs those are the 2 that stick out the most and that seem to come up frequently. So.
I don't know.
We have a resolution that establishes rural housing incentive districts, historic preservation tax incentives, and a resolution establishing Ohio police. But the 2 policies that you have, constitutional tax abatements in here, and CID policy, the rest of it. Not that. I looked at your CID policy, not the rest. These items cannot be enough.
I'm looking under definition, letter D. CID project means. What is I guess the timeline that the commission would like to have those on a study session? Do we want to, seems like CID is kind of the biggest, and then maybe IRB next. Do you want to put those on the next 2 consecutive study sessions? I don't know that we need to. I guess we've got options on how we go forward on that.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be fine just having CID on the next study session, and then basically in that first one, really, it's going to be, I guess, reviewing it and seeing how we can tweak it to make it better. So it'll probably come back unless we're all in agreement that, these adjustments, and then we can bring it at the next commission meeting. But yeah, I think CID and IRB are definitely the top 2 in that order.
I didn't know, I guess I'm hopeful that, I don't know what we have going on at the industrial park, but it'd be nice if we had a meaningful TIF project too.
Yeah.
For the sake of my newness, as it stands, as it's written, sounds a lot better as far as the changes that city manager Quinday's made. Is this something that we can pass as a standalone and then amend the CID and the EDX as we work through
Yeah, we
them?
can adjust those policies as we work through them. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I wouldn't be opposed to that, because as written with the changes to lower the barrier of entry.
Right. Yeah, and
that
it
works for
doesn't,
me.
yeah, it doesn't fix every single problem
Right.
in one resolution, but it gets it into a single source document, and then we can take the time to go through them more thoroughly.
And if we can go through them later more thoroughly and adjust them if needed, or the best we can to make them as most competitive as we can, then I wouldn't be opposed to
And I think it,
passing this as a standalone.
yeah, and I think it'd be helpful to obviously have Carrie in a study session, because she's the one that deals with them on a day-to-day basis.
Yes, correct.
Maybe not day-to-day, but a week-to-week basis. So she'd have a lot more, I guess, insight on the practicality of some of the adjustments that we may propose.
Yeah,
I guess my concern is I feel like there are some factual differences between existing policy. Specific with those above the line and below the line things. And this is I guess the first time that,
what page was that on?
I think it's 17 off the top of my head here. I'm kind of jumping back and forth between the existing and the,
So barring clarification on the
Yeah.
discrepancies.
having this in front of me for the first time here, I guess I'm not comfortable approving it. Again, we've kind of just,
The incentives, change the stuff. The only thing that's changed. That's not right. Again, more of the previous 6 versions.
I want to make sure I heard you clearly there. You said bond counsel has reviewed this, or you're going to ask them to? Okay. I guess I'd feel more comfortable if bond counsel reviewed it prior to passing anything.
I'm assuming the reasoning for that is, so we're not charged if the commission doesn't approve it. Is that correct? Not running it by bond counsel before it is approved, right?
Fee of $1,500. We been planning to pay for the city's attorney, bond counsel, due process. In connection with the funding agreement, yeah, plus the initial money, typically $10,000 with the city. Currently under your, let's see, pay $1,500 to apply and do a funding agreement and plus $1,000 fees.
Where's that amount listed?
The ID call.
And just for clarification, that's the old CID or the existing CID policy.
Is
So
it- can you give me-
nothing has changed, right? You just took all of this and put it in one document.
Yes.
Yes.
It says typically $10,000, but it doesn't say it has to be. I put 5,000 because that's standard of what the cost would for bond counsel. And like I said, if the commission's preference is to go through each incentive, you might join us too. You have, if you want to establish or HID policy, CID policy, an IRB policy, and the EDX. then put them in a consolidated, there's nothing wrong with that, it's just. Staff and Natalie have to continue working on these policies that, for example, this requires a, application on a form acceptable to city manager. Don't have one, created one last week. Funding agreement, there is one attached here, that I did ask the city attorney to review, and we made a couple of, tweaks for the application that we have. That was a local business, I didn't get any issues with $1,500 application. But either way, it's fine. I mean, if the intent is truly to revisit policies and bring them up to what you want them to be, I think that would probably be ideal before you adopt a policy, because you're going to adopt a policy and then work on these and then change the policy again. I think you should get what you want as far as the incentives, get a framework, and then I'll defer to Aaron. But once you have that, then rather than adopting a resolution or ordinance for each policy that you want to approve, each incentive, you could probably do that by one ordinance that adopts those incentives. It just depends how much time you're going to take to redo those. For example, if we put CID on the policy or on the next work study, the question is going to be is what do you want from staff? When you give you a statute, but other than that, what analysis and details are you going to want from that? Or do we just bring the statute and then it's we'll take notes on what the commission wants and hope that we get it right with the we're good either way.
Are you saying you would prefer to not pass this until we revisit those?
No, it's not like condition.
Right.
Intent is to revisit or look at your current CID policy, make little changes to it. Look at your EDX policy, make any changes to it, and then write an ordinance adopting a policy for RHID, tax increment financing, and once you don't have them for it, I think it's better that you do that. If that's your intent to do it sooner rather than later, do that first, then write a comprehensive policy. Otherwise, you adopt this, hypothetically, the commission's good with the CID policy, and you adopt it in February or March. Then we have to change this policy. Next, you get to a TIF, and then I change this. No. The intent of this is not to rewrite what you had, put it into one document for ease. That was based on a conversation with the county, Janelle, I can't remember her last name, Marcus, the temporary ED director, and myself, and then with Natalie when she got here on a single source document because it's difficult to navigate what you have. That was the whole intent of this, not to rewrite anything, not to change your policy. But if that's what you want to do, I would suggest you do those first. Otherwise, you're going to be revising this thing, every other month. Depends how long it takes. Every other year. But if that's your intent, I would do that first.
Yes, I guess in that case, I would be fine just requesting that Carrie, or I guess requesting we have a study session item discussing the CID policy at the next study session.
What analysis or data that you're going to want from staff that would facilitate your discussion?
Obviously want a copy of the existing policy. I'm not really sure on analysis or data what's going to help.
I think from an analysis perspective, it would be looking at those existing CID projects. I don't know, I might know those off the top of my head, but I think it'd be good for everybody to understand those projects and what the impact of those projects have been for the community. So just kind of understanding, Kelsey, I think you obviously write the check, so you see what that revenue is, but
I understand CIDs, but I want to have a few of them. That revenue, that sales tax goes to the developer to reimburse eligible costs.
Mhm.
So we would not have access to their business records. How much are they selling? How many people do they employ? But your current policy does not have performance agreements or performance.
Like no rep-
Like,
I think the kind of the really basic thing is just looking at revenue. We do know what the taxable revenue is. You know, someplace like two of our CIDs are Loves and 24/7. I think most of you here know that. And so we only know what the taxable sales. We don't know what essentially the fuel sales are, which are probably fairly substantial as well. But I think we can use the data that we have. I mean, I'm not expecting you to create anything or, you know, ask them for the number of employees, though.
the only data we have is the sales tax that they remits back to us as their portion of CID.
Well,
So
but
I won't be able to tell you, say Love's gets $15,000 and I'm just throwing that number out there a month. I won't be able to tell you if that's from Snicker bars or from gas.
you can tell us it's not from gas because gas doesn't have sales tax on it. But what we can also determine is the amount of sales tax that the city gets based off of the 2% fee. So we have a fixed sales tax for the city. The 2% CID will tell us what their taxable sales are. So we know what the economic impact is for the city based off of that 2% CID. If the city's sales tax was 2% and the CID was 2%,
Want to take and extrapolate that into something, I think I'm following you. What you want to know.
well, I think, let me just try to break that down for you because I think this is important. If we sell $100,000 worth of taxable things at Love's or $100,000 worth of taxable things are sold at Love's, $2,000 comes back to Love's. But the city still collects its sales tax at Love's. Correct. So that's when I'm looking at impact, that's what I'm looking at is what is the revenue to the city based off of. Love's wouldn't be there without the CID.
Yes, I'm assuming. I'm not sure. If that's how you look at it, that they wouldn't be there without it, I mean, you could say, okay, when we gain this much sales tax based on it. I mean, I see where you're going with that. I'm not sure how you do it with the other CIDs. For example, one of them, the coffee shop, is applying for one after it's been open.
And I think all of them have. I think all of them applied for the CIDs, or at least they got approved. I'm not sure about the application, but I think every single one of the CIDs were approved after they were open. Even Love's. I don't disagree with you. But the one that we've approved most recently was the Family Dollar. And I think there was, again, I'm not behind the scenes, but I think there was an agreement that it would get approved. And I think that's actually the case with the coffee shop as well, is that that's been dragging on now basically since the coffee shop was supposed to open, that application had been put into place and just never pushed forward to be approved.
I can't speak to that because it's my understanding that all applications go to Dickinson County Economic Development. Don't come to us.
I don't disagree with that. I think that may have been part of the problem. So I guess, Kelsey, I don't know. I think it would, if you can get me the disbursements in advance of that meeting, I think I can figure out the sales tax, because of course the timing will matter too. The sales tax rates changed over time. So between special streets and the ballpark, like the amount of revenue that has been collected isn't going to be the same over the last 3 years based off of those.
The inception.
No, I think, I mean, maybe, I don't know, is a year ample?
But you have the sales tax change too, because I think all Bill 1 just started on July.
24 and 25?
I don't want to make it a pain. I mean, I think we have the December 25 already, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I just want it to be easy. I think
Yeah, I think
a year is
21,
plenty of
25.
data for us to kind of see. I'm hopeful that that's pretty consistent here as far past COVID as we are.
Yeah, and in 24, that was when the county sales tax went on for the radio equipment.
Mhm.
There would be that adjustment too.
But I think just we'll essentially have the total taxable number based off of the CID, and then we
Mhm.
can just essentially apply that city tax to that number, I guess is
Right.
what I'm looking at.
Yeah.
For the CID at the study session,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna, pass this to the new manager from United Rate. Or they can start. They can look at it, use it, or, and how you're silly.
Okay. And I guess if I'd be open to if Natalie or Carrie have anything they think is necessary, I guess important to highlight during that study session. It'd be both, if Natalie or Carrie, if they have things that, okay, right. Just for the CID specific policy would be helpful, just if she has any ideas, or, I mean, that's her wheelhouse, that's, sure. No, okay. City Attorney Martin, do you need I guess, a formal tabling of this?
No, if no action is being taken, I think that's fine. If we're postponing it to a date certain, it would be
Right.
helpful to establish that on the record, but if it's
Okay.
indefinite, I don't feel a need to formalize that.
Do you, I guess I'm looking to my left here, do we want to put that on a first meeting in May type of study session?
I know I'm not, to your left, I'm not, do you think you'll have all of your incentives in place by then?
I don't necessarily know that we will, but I feel like it might be useful just to give it a certain date as
It's
City
a,
Attorney Martin.
it's a reminder.
Target.
Or that interview, it's one of the things you tell your new manager. Something.
Right. Yeah, I would personally be fine tabling it to a specific date, just as a reminder, because you know how things happen. You get busy doing other things, and then all of a sudden it's August, and we've looked at 2 incentives policies.
I guess just for sake of completeness, do you want to prioritize each one of the incentives for discussion at the first study session of the month? So February, March, April, May. There's 5, right? June. I think RHID may or may not need, or maybe we sandwich a couple of those together. And then just put this on the first in July, first meeting in July. Again, I think it's just kind of a placeholder. I think our goal is, I think there's some of these that are meatier and some of them that should be a little more straightforward. And if we need to combine them or whatever, I just kind of want to have a pin in it so it doesn't get, doesn't fall in the cracks here. That's what I was suggesting. Yeah, actually suggesting we do that now. Just say, hey, we want to do CID the first meeting in February, IRB the first meeting in March.
However you want to do it, but they make more sense if we get CID, knock it out, finish, we're done with it. Move it, Kayla, or whoever your new manager is, just on the next study session. You're not moving your pins.
I'm open to whatever everyone else thinks on that. You want to just say CID and February and then
Tackle CID first, and we know IRB's next. So then when if we,
Combine them if we need to.
yeah.
And we can talk about combining them at later meetings. If we
Mhm.
work through CID quicker than expected, then we'll schedule it doubled up.
Yeah, and they'll be discussed during study sessions, so it'll be a little more like, if we're pretty set in stone on CID. It's going to be an easy conversation. Hey, the next study session, we'd like to start looking at IRBs.
Yeah.
So, and it may be dictated by, let's say, the industrial park and someone's starting to look at a TIF for some reason. We may have to prioritize that, even over IRBs. If it happens in the meantime, it probably won't. But that gives us the flexibility to, I guess, for the commission to dictate what's next. Right. Okay.
Can you clarify on that, Mr. Quinde? You said the ones we do not have? Oh, you mean the policies that, or the incentives which we don't have specific written policies for? Okay, I'm with you there.
And that would be RHID and TIF.
What's that? July 13th is that first meeting in July. We can
Just
table this
for
until
now.
then. So with that, I'd make a motion to table resolution 012626-1 until the July 13th, 2026 meeting.
A second.
Do you think that's good, Aaron?
I appreciate the clarification. Yes, I think if it's understood that a substantially similar resolution may be presented, then that covers it.
Okay. Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, would a roll call vote? Commissioner Koloff.
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle.
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is 6B, consider approval of the 2026 through 2034 capital improvement equipment reserve plans for water and sewer. Finance Director Breond.
Water and sewer back for your approval. As a reminder, both plans are intended to be living documents that return as annually and for review and adjustment. Regular updates ensure priorities remain aligned with current conditions, funding realities, and community. While maintaining facilities change. And we did plan these conservatively, so.
Questions for staff on CIP? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the 2026 to 2034 capital improvement equipment reserve plans for water and sewer.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Just wanted to, I guess, thank you guys for getting that put together and making sure it gets to us annually. And as you'd mentioned, it's a living document. It doesn't bind us to anything. It just keeps things on our radar, kind of like moving that to the July meeting. It keeps it coming back to us. So any further commission discussion? Seeing none, would roll call vote. Commissioner Lytle.
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Commissioner Koloff.
Aye.
Myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is 6C, consider approval of ordinance number 26-3471, an ordinance amending chapter 7, section 7-1003, 7-1004, 7-1005, and 7-1010 of the city code of the city of Abilene pertaining to the water conservation plan and program and conservation measures during a declared water watch, water warning, and water emergency within the city of Abilene, Kansas, and repealing existing section 7-1003, 7-1004, 7-1005, and 7-1010. Interim City Manager Quinde.
Thank you. It's good business practice for the water utility and municipalities to look at your emergency operations plan for water and wastewater, but also your water conservation plans. Staff did that at the end of 2025 and brought to the commission a recommendation to make some changes to the water conservation plan. First, I wanted to clarify up front that the purpose of the proposed conservation plan was not to change the triggers. The goal was to strengthen the city's ability to manage water responsibly by One, prohibiting waste of water instead of relying on voluntary compliance. Under your current water conservation plan, wasting of water is voluntary. You can do it if you want. And also, currently you have limitations on outdoor watering from May to September. The proposed changes would make outdoor watering limits consistent year-round. As you've seen this year, it's sometimes in the winter, it's gotten up into the mid-70s, and people may want to water. So it would just do that year-round, but also by doing so, there's less question, does it take effect in May or September? And then under your current conservation plan, stage 1, a water watch, the city manager can implement based on certain triggers and can also cancel based on triggers. Under the current plan, stage 2, which is a water warning, the commission has to declare by adoption of a resolution, but any conservation measures are completely voluntary. What this proposed changes does is makes the conservation measures in a stage 2 mandatory. And there's a list enumerated on best practices of what you could make as a mandatory conservation measure. And then there's one sentence on there that says, or any other conservation measure that the city commission decides is in the best interest of the city. And I'm paraphrasing there. The triggers were intentionally unchanged, and that was a deliberate staff recommendation. The current triggers are based on overall system reliability, not just how much water we technically have access to. The triggers reflect real-world operational risk, such as loss of wells, loss of storage, or higher than expected customer demand. These are the conditions that actually put service at risk. Storage is a better metric than wells, as they give us a stable, predictable picture of system health. For example, losing one tower in the summer immediately reduces our storage capacity to about 71%. Under a stage 2 scenario, losing 2 towers drops that to 42% of storage capacity. If storage falls below 60%, it tells us demand is exceeding expectations, even if all infrastructure is still operating. So using these indicators or triggers gives the staff time to act before we're in an emergency. We considered the using wells as triggers. That's problematic for staff. Using wells directly as triggers would create a lot of up and down movement. The static and the drawdown levels of the wells changes based on the amount they're pumped, the rain that we've had, and the static water table. So in reality, you could go from a water watch to a water warning to a water emergency and back down all within the matter of a week, just depending on what those wells are. That makes decision-making difficult for the city commission, could be confusing for the public and inefficient for staff. I can tell you that from other communities that when you go from different levels, stage 1, 2, and 3, quite often the public quits paying attention because, you know, okay, they changed it again. So the less times you change it, the better. Also with using the wells, on paper, the city has sufficient water rights, but in reality, we can only pump so much water from each well. The drought limits recharge and the state restricts gallons per minute per well. So even if we have a well that has 150 acre feet of perfected water rights, the state will say you're only allowed to pump that well at so many gallons per minute. So we can't overpump it above that limit. The pumps can only move so much water. Over pumping also risk permanent damage to the wells, violations of DWR regulations and fives, and potentially, this is an extreme case, but it's a possibility of losing your water rights altogether. Also, not using the wells helps protect the infrastructure because heavy rainfall can force the wells offline. Even though they're groundwater, they can be impacted by debris and sediment that can damage treatment equipment. And so the storage-based triggers are what staff recommends. That's what's currently in the plan. It allows more time rather than quick changes. So the issue or the consideration brought to the commission for the conservation plan isn't when conservation conservation stages are triggered. The issue that we're trying to address is conservation measures are largely voluntary in your plan, even in stage 2. The proposed plan fixes that problem without introducing new technical risk of changing the triggers. So as far as the triggers, staff recommends keeping those in place. We ask you to consider adopting the plan as presented, as it improves enforcement and consistency, provides the commission with authority when conditions worsen, and avoids unintended consequences. For example, if we remain in voluntary measures at a stage 2 water warning and it gets drastically worse, by the time you implement mandatory conservation measures in a water emergency, it could be too late. So the city attorney has drafted the ordinance, which is in your packet for consideration. What that ordinance does is it adopts the conservation plan that we've presented and discussed with the commission. It, as I mentioned, the city manager is authorized to declare and terminate a water watch in accordance with the plan and implement voluntary water conservation measures, and talks about how to get that information out to the public. Then the governing body is authorized to declare and terminate water warnings and water emergencies by resolution. In addition to any specific triggers set forth in the plan, we did add language that a water warning or emergency may be declared whenever the governing body determines a condition exists which is necessary to protect the water supply and ensure the availability of water for essential uses. The year-round water use regulations established elsewhere in code, if adopted, which would be under the water rate ordinance, include the prohibition of wastewater and restrictions on outdoor watering during peak hours, and those that apply at all times regardless of the drought stage. In the biggest changes under a water warning, there are mandatory conservation measures, not voluntary. They may be imposed only by the governing body and only by adoption of a resolution. And the resolution has to identify the measures and their effective date. Then there are 4 suggested mandatory conservation measures, such as limits on outdoor irrigation of lawns, prohibitions on the use of water for decorative fountains, restrictions on washing of vehicles or filling or refilling of swimming pools. Those are just recommendations. It doesn't say you have to adopt them. It's whatever you think is best. And then number 5 is or other reasonable restrictions on water use as determined by the governing body to protect the public water supply. So that is fact specific. Whatever you determine at the time based on the facts presented to you is what number 5 allows you to do. Same thing with a water emergency. Only the governing body can declare it by resolution. And then also adds a few more suggested mandatory conservation measures. But again, those are determined by the governing body at the time you adopt the resolution moving into a water emergency. And mandatory measures imposed under a water warning or water emergencies remain in effect until modified or rescinded by the governing body. So the city manager can't come in after a bunch of rain and say we're out of a water warning or water emergency. Since it was imposed by the governing body, it has to be removed by the governing body. And then it also makes it a municipal offense for wasting of water, which currently right now is you can waste it and there's nothing you can do about it. So we're asking the city commission to adopt ordinance. I've got to get to the number 263471, which amends chapter 7, various sections of the city code pertaining to water conservation, the plan and program and conservation measures during a water watch, warning, and emergency.
Questions for city staff on this? One thing that stuck out to me, and it's just, it's not, I guess it's becoming more common, but I'm glad it was thought of and included in here. But there's a exception for initial filling of newly constructed pools. It's just odd because liner pools are becoming so popular. instead of concrete, and you actually have to have water in them up front. And so I know I've had quite a few people that have been building those recently, and it's something that I don't know if I would have thought to include it in here, but when I was reading through it online, it made perfect sense. So I just know it seems kind of odd to have that caveat without knowing the background on it. So
I guess kind of diving into this right away here. I think the penalty is egregious, number one. I'm curious, a good law, in my estimation, is one that people would follow anyway. And I think the way that this is written, it is overly broad. And one of you guys back there is going to have to arrest our city gardener and put her in jail for 30 days if she waters the flowers after 9 o'clock. Kind of kidding, but I think a good rule is one that if the city can't follow it, you shouldn't expect the citizens to follow it. I think we can maybe fix that by just making it lawn watering. I think that's probably the majority of the issues anyway. So Susie Gardner can go water her flowers with a little jug of water whenever she wants, but I think it was a housing development that left the water on to the tune of 100,000 gallons in 1 month. So that's obviously a problem. I don't know if I'm looking at the gentleman in the back of the room here, if that's like a standard penalty, but I think 30 days in jail for using too much water, even if that would probably never happen, is I understand that's the way it is currently. This is nothing new. That's the way it sits currently. But I think we should make that some sort of reasonable penalty. And I think the way, I guess there's some type of appeal process. I'm sorry, I'm trying to dig through here. But it's basically a meeting with the city manager, and that's kind of where the appeal dies. And so I feel like there should either be some sort of appeal process that includes the governing body or the district court or the city court or something like that, so that I guess personal conflicts can't dictate whether or not someone has water or not.
Commissioner Koloff, I think you recognize this, but I just want to point out the penalty provision in the proposed new section 7-1005 is effectively the same as what is currently on the books insofar as the monetary penalties and potential jail time. The only change to that was inclusion of the reference at the very beginning that simply clarifies that a violation may include any mandatory conservation measure that is implemented via a resolution, just so that those mandatory measures adopted in a resolution have legal teeth, so to speak, and can be enforced in the same way as code. But otherwise, it looks like that the origin of the current fine structures, at least from 2015, if not before. That's not to say it's right or wrong. I just wanted to point that out.
And so if we did pass I guess a resolution, we would, because it says including any mandatory conservation measure adopted by resolution, would we be, I guess, putting those teeth into the resolution on a case-by-case basis?
Well, code, if it were adopted, has a non-exclusive list of mandatory conservation measures that you may pick and choose from, as well as a catch-all option for you to pick from at the time based on the circumstances that allows you to set mandatory conservation measures that reflect whatever reasonable restrictions you deem appropriate at the time. So yeah, I think at the time they would be declared as mandatory, and then that would tie them into this code framework that gives them the legal teeth for enforcement in municipal code. In municipal court.
As I mentioned, the first couple of times we brought this to the commission, that if adopted, the best way to implement any new policy or ordinance is through education. So initially, because waste of water and those restrictions have never been, they're all voluntary. The idea would be that that housing complex that used 1 million gallons, 1.1 million gallons of water in a month that run down the street, we wouldn't go write them a ticket initially, we would go educate them. It's those repeat offenders that continue to waste water or violate the any mandatory restrictions that may end up receiving a citation.
I think if that's the intent, I would be much more comfortable if that's what the ordinance read. Just for the benefit of anybody who doesn't have this in front of them, it says the penalty for an initial violation shall be a mandatory fine of $100. In addition, such customer may be required by the court to serve a definite term of confinement in the city or county jail, what shall be fixed by the court and which shall not exceed 30 days.
And like the city attorney pointed out, that's been the penalty since 2015, I believe.
Right. And I guess my feeling is that if we're in here touching this, let's correct it while it's here. We don't need to bring it back. We can say there's a warning on the first one. I don't think anybody needs to go to jail for watering their lawn, and make some sort of step-up process so that it's, punitive but reasonable.
Well, I'll have to defer to the city attorney, but if it's just a fine, if they were cited up to $100, that would be determined by the judge who has that discretion. As a matter of putting in, the first violation will result in a verbal warning that opens a whole nother can of, well, is it a verbal warning? Is it a written warning? How do you document it? At one point or some point, you'll have to trust staff that says, we're going to implement this by educating the public. And then for repeat offenders that they may get a citation rather than trying to legislate the day-to-day operations.
I think I'm not necessarily trying to legislate the day-to-day operations, but we are in fact legislating here. We're creating laws that have teeth. And right now the law says it's a mandatory $100 fine. So, I mean, I think if anybody reads this, that's clearly what the intent of this language is. That may have never ever been done, but the intent of the language as it's written in this ordinance says it's mandatory. If that's not the intent, I think we should just memorialize the intent.
If I could really quickly, you've correctly described it. Yes. In order to be subject to that fine, you must be adjudicated guilty in municipal court. And there's a process leading up to that, starting with what I presume is police officer discretion as to how to deal with a particular suspected violation. And then if that runs its course through municipal court and someone is adjudicated guilty, the judge then has ordinarily discretion to render the punishment that he or she deems appropriate within the confines of what the code says. We do have a general penalty provision of the Abilene City Code that in many cases is what we would rely on to enforce code. You'll see in some cases we've said the penalty for violating this code section or this article or even this chapter is this. In other cases, we don't state a penalty, and that's very common. Other portions of the code don't have a penalty, but they have mandatory you shall or you shall not language. In that case, the city prosecutor, who is not me, but another attorney, in that if he were successful in prosecuting, the judge would then be bound by the general penalty provision of the code, which says that whenever an offense is declared unlawful by the code and there's no unique punishment prescribed, then the punishment shall be a fine of not less than $1 or more than $500 and imprisonment for not more than 6 months, or C, both. And that generally gives the judge wide latitude to take into account the circumstances of the case and take into account recommendations of the city prosecutor and any other facts. So I wanted to make sure you're aware of that there's a wide degree of latitude in most enforcement proceedings within municipal court. This is one case where we have prescribed a mandatory fine, as the code has read for a while now, but you are correct that it is mandatory in this case, and it would not provide discretion.
again, just kind of repeating what I said earlier, I think a good law is one that people would follow willingly, and it seems like even our city staff don't think that that's one that they should be following. And so I think let's memorialize it. I can assure you that the people who used 1 million gallons had no intention to use 1 million gallons. We're probably really, really sorry about it. I'm guessing nobody went to jail. No one got fined $500. So let's just memorialize it. Like, hey, you screwed up. You get one warning. It's not, it can be good forever as long as that account is active. And then we can follow the rules. And I think, again, I'm fine with $100 or up to $100 or whatever the court adjudicates. I don't think anyone should go to jail for watering their lawn. I think it makes sense if we're going to change the policy. I think we change it right now while we're doing it and do it right the first time. I'm fine with, I don't know, we can step it up. I'm even fine with $1,000 or $10,000 on a 20th offense, if that's what makes sense. But I think it needs to be reasonable. This is the way it reads now is not reasonable. And again, I don't think our city staff can follow this statute or this ordinance as it's written.
Can you provide any particulars on, you've said several times that city staff don't violate this or would violate this, or, you know, if it was written, we shouldn't send them to jail. What exactly are they doing that's violating current policy or code?
Well, our gardener goes around and waters plants all throughout the day.
That's not prohibited right now.
It is. It actually is prohibited under our current code. Plants, shrubs, and lawns are prohibited. I'm fine if we want to remove plants and shrubs. I think that's a good way forward.
So it's prohibited year round to water those?
No, just during, I think it's during the water emergency to water plants and shrubs in
Correct.
addition to lawns.
Correct.
And I think the current ordinance as it's written includes all three of those as well.
If that is something that you adopt in your resolution prohibiting, and I'm not sure the last time you were in an emergency where you prohibited watering shrubs, but a general blanket that staff is violating existing policy, I'll look into your allegation, but that does nothing for governing body staff relations when, well, you're violating this and we shouldn't do that because, well, our gardener does this.
I'm afraid you're not understanding me. Mr. Quinde,
Yes, go ahead, please.
if I may,
wanted to
really quick,
clarify-
I'd like to finish. Mr. Quinde said, I'm saying, I'm using your words. You said that staff is giving people warnings. You're saying that what
That's
the,
not what I said. I said good policy is that when you adopt a new policy or a new ordinance, best practice is to go out and educate the public. I didn't say we go out and give everybody a warning, but as a police officer, a former police officer and retired police chief, and as a city manager who's been doing this more than 5 months, if there's a new policy, whether that's internal or it's external, you warn people. If the city commission says, you know, we want the speed limit on this street to go from 30 to 20 because whatever reason, so you pass an ordinance that says now it's 20 miles an hour. Police chief is not going to have his officers go out there and start writing tickets. Because if he does, we'll look for a new police chief. He's going to go out there and those guys are going to pull over those people doing 35 and 40 miles an hour and say, hey, there's a new speed limit. Can't do it, please slow down. Maybe the next time they're going to go through and say, please slow down. But you know, that third and fourth time, you're going to get a ticket. It could be with any type of policy. Because it provides us with this, doesn't mean they're going to go out and do it. The standard traffic offenses and the Uniform Public Offense Code that you adopt every year, which mirrors city code, very few of those say you have to do anything. Domestic violence, if there's probable cause that a battery's occurred, police officer must make an arrest. But if somebody's driving recklessly, it doesn't say you must write them a ticket or you must take them to jail. They can write them a warning. They can give them a verbal warning. Heck, they can call their mom and dad and say, you want to come up and pick up Johnny because he's driving like a fool. That often goes much further than writing them a ticket. Because at the end of the day, we all live in the same community, and educating the public on new policies and laws is the best way to move forward. That's what I said.
I just wanted to clarify when you bring up city staff not following the same watch and warnings that everybody else has, we do that in the Parks Department. Corey is in constant contact with Joe and Brad. As far as the Rose Garden, all the pots downtown, all the beds we have, they water by jugs that they fill from the pump house across from the wreck.
Private well.
RO
waste.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not
Okay.
potable water.
So I just wanted to clarify that since we're on an open meeting, that we are following whatever's being put out there as far as our watering the ball fields or anything like that.
Right. I think we're maybe talking past each other a little bit here, but the city gardener, as I've observed, is out watering the plants during the day. It's 10 o'clock, noon, 1, 2. This gets rid of all that. Am I wrong? Am I wrong about this? This establishes water restrictions 100% of the time. You can only water from 7 PM to 9 AM.
From the potable, from the city's water source, if they're using wastewater, non-potable water, it wouldn't apply. No difference than if somebody had a private well. We don't regulate private wells.
I mean, I think the intention is that it does in here. I mean, to the extent that we can. It says extension of restrictions to private wells within the city limits to the extent authorized by state law.
If you determine that that's necessity, then you would have to have the chief engineer extend that restriction to wells by showing that it impact your existing water source.
I don't know that, again, I'm 100% on board if we get rid of shrubs and plants. I think that makes it pretty straightforward. I don't know that I mean, anybody who watches the city gardener work is going to know that she got her water from RO waste from a special pump in the city.
But if they would ask rather than allege, they might know. They call up and say, hey, we're under a water warning, but your city employee is watering shrubs at Little Ike Park or wherever it is. Yes, ma'am or sir, but they're using non-potable water. They're using wastewater from our water treatment facility. And I think they would appreciate that. With that, staff is asking the commission to adopt ordinance 263471, which would adopt the water conservation plan as presented and make the relevant changes to city code.
I would make a motion to approve ordinance number 26-3471.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any further commission discussion?
I would still suggest and recommend that we remove any incarceration as penalties and also plants and shrubs from what's excluded. And then I would have no problem voting for this.
Do we have any further commission discussion?
Just to be abundantly clear, the ban on outdoor watering between the hours of 9 AM and 7 PM is in the next ordinance.
Okay, my apologies. Thank you.
There's no further commission discussion. I move to roll call vote. Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
Commissioner Koloff,
Nay?
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is 6D, consider approval of ordinance 26-3472, an ordinance amending chapter 7, sections 7-901, 7-902, and 7-903 of the city code of the city of Abilene pertaining to water rates and prohibitions outside watering during peak hours and water waste within the city of Abilene, Kansas, and repealing existing section 7-901, 7-902, and 7-903. Interim City Manager Quinn Day.
For brevity, unless the commission prefers that I do, I won't go over the cost of service study and what it revealed and how it allocates costs. What I'll focus is on ordinance 263472. And based on commission feedback after several study sessions with representatives from Raftellus, the city attorney has prepared the ordinance that is in front of you. And what that does is that establishes residential water rates in the city where all residential customers will be billed at the standard residential 3/4 inch meter rate. If they have a 1 inch meter or 3/4 inch meter, it's just the same price.
That fixed charge for residential would be $26.60. If adopted by the commission, that would be effective with their February 26 billing cycle, which would reflect on their April bill. And then the rates designed for subsequent years, 27 through 2030, become effective with the January 15th billing cycle of each applicable year. The volumetric rates inside the city limits would be in addition to the fixed charge as they currently are now. The difference is currently it's just one tier. What's been proposed is 3 tiers. Tier 1 is up to including 4,000 gallons of water per month. Tier 2 is 4,001 to 10,000 gallons per month. And Tier 3 is usage in excess of 10,000 gallons per month. As those were characterized was Tier 1 is that essential use for families, and Tier 2 and 3 would be discretionary use. The applicable volumetric rates for Tier 1 would be $4.54, so that would be unchanged from what it is currently. Tier 2 would go to $6.81, and Tier 3 would be $13.62. So if you use 10,000 gallons, your first 4,000 gallons would be at $4.54 per thousand, and then your next 6,000 gallons would be at the $6.81. For residential customers outside the city limits, the fixed charge and the volumetric charges would be 2 times the rate established for residential customers located in the city. Rates during a declared water emergency. During a declared water emergency pursuant to Article 10 of City Code, the volumetric charges for residential water use above 10,000 gallons, both inside and outside the city limits, would be 2 times the rates established in the section. Section 2 talks about the commercial water rates and dedicated irrigation service rates. The monthly charge for commercial rates for a 3/4 inch meter would be the same as residential at $26.60, and that cost increases by the size of your meter. 1 inch would be $40.56, 2 inch $117.34, 4 inches $445.41, and 6 inch $982.88. As Mr. Beckley and Mr. Campbell had mentioned, the reason for those is the demand feature. If those you have a 6 inch meter, our infrastructure has to be built to be able to serve those. There were approximately 70 2-inch water meters that were identified during this study. I had staff start reaching out to every customer that has those. Of those, we've identified 20 who could probably scale down. 2 have already said, yes, let's change it. 20 are still thinking about it. And staff is getting the measurements and what they need to get the right materials to switch those people from 2 inch to 1 inch or 3/4 inch meters, whatever they need. That leaves about 50 left. 10 of those are city, which leaves 40. And out of those 40, most of those are needed. Some of those, for example, I believe the school district will have 10 of those. The hospital would have some large ones, and then Russell Stovers and those. And then the volumetric charges for commercial customers inside. Previously, it was the same rate as residential customers, up to 225,000 gallons per month. Anything over 225,000 gallons was actually a reduction in cost. Under the proposed rates, the commercial rate would be $6.11 per thousand. And then dedicated irrigation service, their monthly fixed charge would be based on the size of the meter that serves the premises and would follow the commercial rates as far as the meter cost. And then the volumetric charge would be per 1,000 gallons equal to the Tier 2 residential rate, which is $6 for irrigation, $6.81 for standalone irrigation meters. And then again, commercial and dedicated irrigation customers outside the city limits would be 2 times the rates established for inside customers. And then as the city attorney mentioned, Section 3 talks about or amends Section 7903 of the code, which bans outside watering during peak hours. Says outside watering of lawns, plants, and shrubs is prohibited between the hours of 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. on any day of the year. Currently, it's May through September. And then the waste of water is prohibited at all times. And waste of water includes, but is not limited to, permitting water to escape onto sidewalks, streets, roadways, and other surfaces, or failure to repair a controllable leak of water due to defective plumbing, irrigation equipment, or fixtures. As it says in the emission package, we're not asking you to adopt this tonight, to give you time to look at the ordinance and consider it, because there was a lot of information presented by Mr. Beckley and Mr. Campbell over 3 work study sessions. What is in this ordinance is based on the feedback received from the city commission during the last study session. So unless you decide that you're ready to adopt it now, we will put this on the February 9th regular meeting agenda under unfinished business for your consideration. If you do approve it on February 9th, that would still allow us time to make internal changes for the billing software for that February 15th time. And city staff is working on a communications plan for once this is adopted to get out to
I think that was one of the important things, was just proactively going out to those customers that likely, that are likely, they likely have a larger valve than they need.
Yeah, and during that process, one thing that I was not aware of, but Brad and Joe pointed out that some of those 2-inch meters are low flow meters, which means that they are built to detect a low flow and high flow. So those ones don't worry us as much as the old ones that are only high flow, because they'll underread. So if somebody's willing to pay for that 2-inch capability, but they don't use, 50,000 gallons a month, if it's a low, high flow one, that's fine, because it's going to read properly. But right now we have about 20 out of those 70 that says, yeah, we need to. And we got about 40 that said, well, let's think about it. So it wasn't like such a big shocker. They're like, change me now.
Do you know how many of those, I guess, that are remaining, do you have that low and high flow sensor on them?
No, not off the top of my head.
Yeah,
look
I
up to you
did.
and send-
Sure.
and send
I was
it
just
to you.
curious if that was the bulk of them, or if it was just a handful, or yeah. And I'm fine waiting until the February 9th meeting,
Are there any questions or
since there were changes since.
before the February 9th meeting that you have, or between now and then, I will send out the communications plan that we've been working on. Kelly Olson has taken the lead on that. She does an amazing job. She's out today. Once that's in final form, we'll send that out to you before the February 9th meeting.
Any further questions in the meantime? Okay, thank you. Next up is item 7A, discussion and potential action regarding bids received for the purchase and outfitting of 2 police cars for the police department. Police Chief Wilkins.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I try to get through my spiel without using the word water, so the acronym CID, IRB, RHID.
Sprinkle 1 or 2, and it's okay.
2025, the city budgeted $99,000 in the equipment reserve fund for the purchase and upfitting of 2 police cars. As a result of the city's uncertain financial condition at the time, those purchases were deferred to 2026. Funds remain in the equipment reserve. The purchase and upfitting of 2 police cars was included in the commission-approved 10-year equipment reserve plan for 2026. Earlier this month, our staff sent out invitations to bid to 3 dealerships and posted the invitation on the city's website. The invitation included information on 2 aging police vehicles to be utilized as trade-ins. We received back bid from Valor Automotive for 2 2026 Dodge Durangos, inclusive of trade-in and promotions, $61,630. We received from Davis Moore Chrysler, who does have the state contract, price including trade-ins and incentives, 2026 Dodge Durangos, $69,544. Home Automotive declined to bid just due to its uncertainty and availability of it. They didn't want to bid and then. In addition to the acquisition price, staff sent out bid requests to 3 equipment upfitters for the upfitting of 2 2026 Dodge Durangos. We received back from Special Vehicle Source a bid of $19,799.79. Bid from KCOM, $29,723.70. Finally, Superior Emergency Response Vehicles for $18,154.80. Staff's recommending that you authorize the purchase of the 2026 Dodge Durangos from Valor Automotive for the $61,630. Did note a typo in the agenda request that went out. I think that number on there showed 61,300. The correct number is $61,630. The upfitting from Special Vehicle Source, the $19,799.79. Total cost of acquisition upfitting would be $81,429.79, which is well under the $99,000 in equipment reserve for the 2 patrol cars. While Superior Emergency Response Vehicles quote for upfitting was slightly under Special Vehicle Source, or if we're doing, I said not the names, but SERV is located in Andover versus Special Vehicle Source located in Junction City, so shuffling much easier than 2 staff in Junction City. And pretty common to once we get a vehicle, we want some changes. Same thing. Junction City going to. With that, I would take any questions the commission has.
That was the one. I was just curious on I made a note on the nuance or justification of going with them in Junction. I assumed it was proximity, but appreciate that.
I'm not familiar with that company. Are they relatively new?
Yeah, they've been after our business for a few years for good things. I think we toured it probably for.
They've been around a few years at least.
And what was the name of that one again?
Junction City.
Yeah.
It goes by SVS is what
Yeah.
Special Vehicle
it
Source.
stands for special.
It's like right in the middle.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Jason? Chief Wilkins, sorry.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you. I would make a motion to authorize the purchase of 2 2026 Dodge Durangos from Valor Automotive for $61,630, including trade-in, and the upfitting from Special Service Source in the amount of $19,799.79.
I'll second that.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, move to roll call vote. Vice Mayor Taylor,
Yes.
like a waiter as you took a drink of water. Commissioner Kolhoff,
Nay.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
myself, yes, motion carries. Our next item is city manager and staff reports. Do we have any that want to speak as, I guess, on behalf of their reports? Item 9A is an executive session. City Attorney Martin, interim manager Quinde, do you have any thoughts on time?
10 minutes seems adequate to start.
Okay.
I'd make a motion to move the city commission, that the city commission recess into executive session for 10 minutes to discuss the terms of employment applicable to a city employee pursuant to KSA 754319B1, based upon the need to discuss personal matters of non-elected personnel. Opening meeting will resume in this room at 6:01 PM.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion? Seeing none, move to roll call vote. Commissioner Kolhoff.
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle,
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. We're in executive session. We will now resume our regular meeting. City Commission met in executive session to discuss the terms of employment of non-elected personnel. As a result of that discussion, the commission will consider whether to approve a limited deviation from the city's personnel policy regarding vacation accrual for a current department head based on the terms set forth in that employee's original offer of employment. And with that, I would make a motion that the city commission approve a one-time deviation from the city's personnel policy to authorize a current department head to receive increased vacation leave benefits consistent with the terms of that employee's original offer of employment.
I'll second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any further commission discussion?
Yeah, I think this is kind of an unfortunate mistake, but I think it's obviously the right thing to do. And I guess hopefully we don't have any more mistakes, but we obviously appreciate our city staff, and I think we're taking the right action here.
Any further commission discussion? Now move to roll call vote. Commissioner Koloff.
Aye.
Commissioner Lytle.
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Myself, yes, motion carries. It is not on there, but I would take a motion to adjourn.
I move, we adjourn.
Second.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Do we have any commission discussion?
Do you want to talk about naming rights here or across the street?
I'm fine just going over there.
That's great.
Do you have any further commission discussion? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Commissioner Lytle.
Yes.
Commissioner Meisenberg.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Taylor.
Yes.
Commissioner Koloff.
Aye.
Myself, yes, motion carries. We are adjourned.